there YouTube, Big G, back again with another video. And yeah, excuse the hair and the disheveled look and everything like that, but otherwise it's just another day on lockdown. So you don't have to look at your best. Okay, yeah, one of the groups on Facebook are busy doing a ultra expander or super ultra expander for the Spectravideo range of computers. And you know, I'm a big fan of the Spectravideo computers as such, and that brought back to mind that I had a homemade piece of equipment from way back in the day, and it started getting me thinking again about you know, those old times when computers first came out, especially because of how expensive they were back in the day. So not like today, you can, you know, computers are, I wouldn't say as cheap as chips, but they definitely are a lot more affordable to everybody than what they were back in the day. I mean, if you wanted a disk drive system or a super expander or anything like that, it cost an arm and a leg. You mean you really had to have a lot of money in order to buy some of the latest equipment from back then, simply because of, you know, supply and demand and so forth. I mean, it was very much a niche market. There weren't a lot of people using computers back then, 30, 40 years ago, so therefore they were really expensive. And you know, it brought back to mind that about 20-25 years ago, when I first started collecting vintage computers and consoles and so forth, I went and put an ad in the newspaper, the local newspaper in my hometown, East London, and just to see what would happen. And this little old man phoned me and said, you know, he's got some vintage stuff that he'd like to sell or move or see if I'm interested in. And I went past his place, and I'll never forget, he had an absolute treasure trove of vintage computers and stuff. And from him I purchased my Texas Instruments TR4 from him, together with the big metal super expander, something that I'd never seen before, as well as a Spectravideo 328 and a whole lot of cards for the Spectravideo 328 that went with his homemade super expander for the Spectravideo. I asked him what it was. He said he built it from scratch. He couldn't afford to buy a super expander for the Spectravideo so that he could use disk drives and so forth. I don't recall him having a disk drive, so he probably was using it for printing and stuff like that, because he was sort of, I could see that he loved his computers, and you know, he had maybe he was running a business from them back in the day. And he built this thing from scratch. He reverse engineered it from information that he found, and he built it from scratch. And I thought that was amazing. So I took all his Spectravideo stuff, I took his Texas Instruments stuff. I still remember that he had a Commodore 128D, which I wanted from him, but he wouldn't sell it because he said all his databases on, he still was physically using it back then to run his business from. So, and I never ever managed to pick it up from him, so there's still one of those out in the wild there if anybody manages to pick it up, because I'm sure 20 years later, he was in his late 60s, maybe early 70s back then, so I'm sure he's passed on. Rest in peace. I can't remember his name, but hopefully somebody picked up that Commodore 128 and hosts of peripherals for the Commodore 128, and it didn't just end up in the rubbish dump. But anyway, today's video is about that Spectravideo super expander that he built, and I just want to show you because I thought it was actually very interesting. You know, finding a way around not being able to afford one and actually building one with limited resources as well. And then I thought we'd test it because I've never ever tested it. So hold on, I'll show you the piece of equipment. Okay, first off, here is my Spectravideo 328 over here. I used to have a whole lot of them, but sold them on to some other collectors out there, guys that were after them, so hopefully they've got them all up and running and working. I know Yanni in Cape Town got a couple of them. Guys, I hope you get them all up and running, because these are wonderful machines. And I never ever thought that, you know, why should I end up with 5 or 6 of these sitting in the shed when others could be enjoying them. So I hope you guys are enjoying them. But anyway, this is my Spectravideo 328, and you can see there at the back, there is my super expander, or expander, my SV601, and disk drive interface. over there. Now those of you that know your Spectravideos, you had a couple of expanded options. One, you had the mini expander, which allowed you to connect cards to. Then you had this expander 601, and then you had the one that I'm ready after, the one that has the disk drives built in. The unfortunate part is I had every single card that went with this, and for some unknown reason I sold them off to another Spectravideo collector. I wish I hadn't, but anyway, it's not something that I would have actually have used. But anyway, they were I should have kept them, but I hope he's enjoying them. Disk drive, that's working. This super expander over here is working. The floppy disk is working. I have loaded CPM on it before. Okay, here's the piece of equipment that gentleman actually made. So he connected up a mini expander. You can see there, it also clips into the back of the Spectravideo, then allows you further options from there. And he built his own expansion system. 5 slots, just like I think this is 6 slots. Yeah, the others are 6 slots, but anyway, 5 slots. You can see he's hollowed out, cut off at the back there, and from here you'd be able to run printers, disk drives, and so forth. His power supply that he built over here is a massive job. I'm not sure it actually needed that much power, but it must have, I'm not sure. With a fan system at the back there, and I've never tested this. Well, I don't believe I've ever tested this because it's got some strange looking connectors on there. I don't ever recall connecting that to anything. I'm not even sure. It's got the power supply there. So yeah, I'm going to connect this up and actually see. I'm going to move my floppy disk controller from my other, put it in here, connect up the disk drive, connect this up to the Spectravideo 328, switch it on, and let's see if it actually works. Hopefully it doesn't blow everything up. I've had that happen to me a couple times, and I must say these big capacitors over here can be fun and games when they do pop. Smoke everywhere, and yeah, I mean it's old, so anything can happen. But anyway, let's see if his little baby over here, his expander system, actually does work. I'm actually quite interested to try this. So yeah, let me set it up and let's see. Okay, first things first, I'm going to just plug it straight in without actually connecting it to the computer. Switch it on, and just to make sure that nothing strange happens. It does have 2 power cords. Now I'm not sure now why. Maybe he had this strange plug on it. Maybe this is a 12 volt. I see that this power cord actually runs into this side here of the power supply. Maybe this was used to power something else while the main power came in through there. So I'm not sure. So I'm not going to fiddle with that. I'm going to plug in the main power supply and switch the unit on and see if it does anything. Okay, so let's switch it on. Okay, fan is spinning. The green light has come on. It definitely seems to be power to the system. That all seems fine. So let's connect it up to the computer. So firstly, I'm just going to plug in my Spectravideo straight through to the TV, make sure everything is working. You switch it on. It's got power. And there we have the Spectravideo boot up sequence. Everything seems to be fine. Now let's connect up the rest. Okay, I think we're ready to go. Okay, so I've slotted in my floppy disk controller into one of those ports. Hopefully it's in correctly because yeah, it's a little bit wonky. You can see there, it doesn't hold it as nice and snugly, and I hope that's incorrect. I've gone and connected my floppy disk over here, connected that to the back of the floppy disk controller. I've gone and I've put in my CPM 2.2 master disk, and yeah, I want to just go, and I think the first thing I'm going to do, it's connected with the mini expander to my Spectravideo. But I think the first thing I want to do is I just want to switch on the unit and see if the red light on the floppy disk controller comes on. No. So let me just make sure that that is seated in properly. Well, unfortunately guys, it doesn't seem to be working, which is a pity. I tried it in both slots and I couldn't get the little red light to come on there for the floppy disk controller. I didn't want to switch on my Spectravideo while that was on. You know, I did briefly do it just to see if that would flash the red light, but that wouldn't. And I'm not going to fiddle around too much because I don't want to destroy my original Spectravideo hardware. But anyway, it's still a very, very interesting contraption that this guy built. I'm sure I'd love to have actually asked him to demonstrate to me how it works. The cards don't fit too nicely into here. Maybe there's something wrong there. I did notice that there were match head pieces of matchsticks that were inside the actual slots there on either side, are supposed to guide the card into it. So a little bit of a MacGyver there to get it working. I'm sure it must have been working at some stage. Would love to have seen him up and running. But unfortunately I can't, and I'm not going to fiddle too much with it to see whether I can actually get it up and running. So, well, a fail, but still interesting. And still interesting to think that somebody actually went and built a super expander for their Spectravideo. You know, maybe it's got something to do with this 12 volt. I measured it. This cable here is fluctuating. Maybe it's to do with the power. I'm not sure. It sort of fluctuates between 12 and 19 volts, up and down, up and down. That's coming off this cable here. But I'm not going to fiddle around too much with it. Well, guys, failed experiment, but still it was fun. And while I've got the old Spectravideo out, I'm going to do a little bit of gaming. Okay guys, cheers from me, and remember, keep it retro.